Well, here we are. First live stream of 2021-22 school year. I'm Abe Push Green, Mr. Green. You guys are watching this for the first time. You probably won't see it before I see you on Tuesday, but in case you do, what's up? We got a couple new things for this year. I got some new eyeglasses, not sunglasses. And everything else is the same. Same channel, same information, right? This stuff hasn't changed. But we got to learn it all. So what we're doing is, and I didn't turn off my cell phone. Let me do that real quick. I was going to do this, like just record it, but I find because I'm really, a stickler for making things good, then I making them perfect. I would like stop it and do it. So if I do it live and that happens, whatever. But what we're going to do is first 5 chapters, I'm going to do it like this. We're going to start on chapter 6, third day of class, right? And which will start with the 7 Years' War or the French and Indian War, depending on which continent you live in. We're going to mostly refer to it as the French and Indian War, okay? If you live in Europe, 7 Years' War, right? So that's where we're going to start in class. But we're going to do everything up basically until the colonies are like, nah, son, I want to do my own thing. That's where we're going to start in class. We're going to do everything up until that point on YouTube. You can watch it at home, do the chapter questions, do the note cards, blah, 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 all this stuff we'll get to later on. So there's like 65 slides in this, but I'm going to go through them pretty quickly because you just really need the overall gist of this, of what's going on, what's happening, and, what's the whole thing with Christopher Columbus and why is he, hated. Some people love him, some people hate him. We'll go over it and let you form your opinion. I don't know. It's been, controversial subject as of late. So hopefully this is all working. It seems like it is, but it's not like I'm expecting anybody to be here right now. So stormy afternoon up here where I live in Palm Beach Gardens, lightning and thundering. I don't know what it's doing down there in Boca, but let's get it started, right? I do have a little intro music that my boy Danny recorded for me a couple years ago when we first started this channel. And I'm going to play that for you right now. Alrighty. That's some good stuff. So what we're doing is I'm going to do a lesson. This is how it would be for most of the classes, right? We'll do lectures. You'll come into class. You'll have an RCQ. We'll grade the previous day's RCQ. Then we'll do some lecture. That's how most classes are going to go. And in between, you're going to have note cards. You're going to have chapter questions. That's all the boring stuff, right? Before tests, some of the big ones, we're going to do face-off, which I'll explain later. We're going to have the Salem Witch Trials one day. That'll be closer to Halloween because we're going to cover that in these first 5 chapters. So that's a standalone thing. It's awesome. First Friday in February, we have A Push Day, right? There's a couple other surprises I'm going to throw in there. So you can look forward to that. We'll have a lot of fun. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you can. A Push Green on Instagram. And I just post memes on there mostly. You don't have to. I don't post assignments or anything like that. It's just fun stuff for the school. So here we go. Chapter 1, Unit 1, right? So there's 9 units in A Push. This is the first one, right? First unit. This is chapter 1 of that first unit. So there's 5 chapters in the first unit, okay? And this is the very beginning, 33,000 BC to 80 179. You can see that there. I try not to read everything to you. I try not to read anything to you. I'll point stuff out on the. But if you're wondering, because I haven't said it yet, should I take notes? What do I do? What do I do for notes? Do not write everything down. You cannot write everything down that we will do in lectures and class. You have to learn what's important, what are the big things, right? And what that will help you with is the RCQs, which are reading. So I'll give you 5 to 6 pages of reading. You'll do the readings. Then we'll cover that information the next day. That's how it goes in lecture. So you'll know a lot of this stuff. So you need to read, remember your readings, come up with, he didn't talk about that stuff in the readings. Not that it can't be on the test. It could be on the exam in May. But some of the stuff I cover, more of during the lectures, and you need to definitely make sure you know that stuff. Okay. So, we had a single continent, Pangea, right? Shape, plates shifted. This is geography. I can't go over all of it with you, but you can see here, boop, 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 boop. They moved and they got bigger. They moved apart from each other. They didn't get bigger. They just moved apart, right? And actually got smaller. These continents was like big continents. And then you can see the big one here is India. See, it's like, just smashes into Asia. And that makes the Himalayan mountains. You guys should know that one. All right. We have the Appalachian Mountains, which we're going to talk a lot about during this course, also the Rockies. But the Appalachians are the ones that run up and down the coastline, just a little bit to the interior of the east coast of the United States. Right? They are much, much older than the Rocky Mountains. That's why the Appalachian Mountains, if you go up into those areas, like especially Tennessee, Virginia, they're not like rocky mountains. They're not like, see rocks on they're all covered in trees. They're rounded over because they're old from erosion. Right? That's how it works. Then you have the newer ones. Those are out west. The big ones that we're going to talk about definitely are the Rockies and the Appalachians. A little bit with the Sierra Nevadas, but mostly the Rockies and Appalachians. You need to know where those are at. Okay. So here you can see where they're at. Rockies, Appalachian, see how it runs right up here. So all the way from not quite Alabama, but Georgia, all the way up. Appalachian Trail. You can do that if you want when you graduate. Then you got the Rocky Mountains over here. These go all the way from Canada down into Mexico. Right? Most people don't realize that one. And so 2 million years ago, we had an ice age, covered it. Then 10,000 years ago, that retreated, and it changed America, okay? So a lot of the lakes and stuff were created from that ice age because as the glaciers moved back, they dug down into the ground, forming a lake, leaving it filled, and that's why we have a lot of lakes and stuff, especially in the north. Now, this one, you can see the brown is the land exposed, right, as the glaciers got bigger. So you can see Florida, down by where we are, wasn't that, because right off the coast here, it's really deep. But on the west coast, you can see there's land all the way out in what is today ocean, right? They found cave dwellings of people and pottery, 15 feet under the water, because that was all exposed. You can see Indonesia, these low-lying areas were all one big landmass. This was all land, right? Australia didn't have a lot of coastline. They ran into Indonesia. So you can see it changed. But the biggest thing, right, was here. Up here, and we're going to get to that, all right? That's a Bering Land Bridge, all right? So it melted so people could cross. Here you go. Could cross from Asia into what is, present-day Alaska, and then come all the way down and eventually populate South America. Now, it was a long way. Now, for the most part, people were stuck right to the edges during the Ice Age because this was all ice. They're like, let's get some. It's not ice. It's too cold, Bobby. and they come down here, and then they start spreading out a little bit where it gets a little bit warmer eventually, but then they keep going. They're like, Caribbean, get us some nice drinks on the beach, a nice frozen virgin pina colada, I don't know, whatever you guys are drinking. You can get some stuff from, what is that place called? Well, you just make fun of it. Raw juice. That's right. It's not juice, it's juice, because there's no I, right? It's Juce, so it's raw juice. You can get like what is the coconut one? Frosty coconut from raw juice with an acai bowl. It'll be great. Okay, I'm just messing with you. Let's go. So you can see they could get across all of this. They moved down, right? Now, that was 35,000 years ago. Until 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, right? There was 54 million people living here, somewhere around there. There are estimates as low as 8 all the way up to 110. But there's been more evidence and stuff like that we're really around the 60 to 65 million person range living in North and South America, right? And that's the biggest thing you got to remember is millions and millions of people living in North and South America. So when you say somebody discovers land, that might not be the right description, because you can't really discover something if somebody's already living there, right? I can't walk up to your house and plant an 8-push green flag in the front and be like, I discovered this, it's mine, right? Your parents would be like, nah, son, like, we already live here, we bought this. Be like, yeah, but I'm taking it for 8-push green. We're going to use it for a clubhouse. Like, what? I mean, it's nonsensical, right? It's stupid. So you keep that in mind. We have Christopher Columbus is going to do this. So we have the big ones you need to know, the Incas and the Aztecs, right? The Mayans are before the Aztecs, but the Aztecs are the ones that are going to be conquered, and the Incas are going to be conquered by the Spanish conquistadors, all right? Cortez and Pizarro, right? Those are going to be the big ones. They don't have a lot of the things that we take for granted to have in the United States. They don't have the horse. They don't have the oxen. Horses are going to change their lives, right? It's going to completely change it. But they had huge cities, long distance trade, especially the Incas down in South America. Okay, they were trading all over the place. They were very, very smart in math. Some of the stuff, I don't even understand the math stuff. Right? I mean, they had calendars going out, hundreds of years. I think that's where the 2012. You guys were like, 5 or 6 years old, but that was the year that the world was supposed to end according to the Mayan calendar, I believe. So that's what I'm saying. They have calendars out to 2012. I can barely figure out what day of the week, school starts. I'm joking, I can't, but human sacrifices. This was a big part of the Aztecs. Anytime there was a crop, they'd start hunting down people living in their area. They would capture them, bring them to the capital of Tenochtitlan. I'm pretty sure I got that one right on the first try. They've been saying it for a long time, but it's still one of those ones. It's a tongue twister. It'll come up here in a second. But yeah, if you read that right, they cut out the hearts of living victims. So not so good, right? And they would do this until it started raining or whatever was happening stopped. And they're like, see, the gods made us, they favored us. They stopped doing whatever it was they were doing, right? So, I mean, yeah, it worked, but it didn't work because you were just killing people. And it's like thousands of people just like, pow, pow, just reach in there. They pull out their heart while it's still beating. That is, I mean, you want to talk about savage? It doesn't get any more savage than that, right? There you go. Tenochtitlan. Incas are down here in South America. Cusco is the capital. These were huge civilizations. They're going to get wiped off the map by the Spanish conquistadors, all right? Here he goes. Not the best image. Human sacrifice frowned upon in today's day and age, right? Don't want to do any of that. But back then, that was what they were doing, right? So they start getting corn, right? Cultivation, this is where corn comes from. It comes from the Mayans. It starts, the corn that we have today does not look anything like what they had then, right? And it was a pretty big development. It's not the biggest one, but it's big, okay? And you can see here, some of them were intensive farming. Some of them did a little bit of hunting and gathering, and vast amounts of them, especially in the north and the south, did hunting, gathering, and fishing. Now, if you're saying to yourself, that's weird. Why would all of these up top and all of these down here hunter, gather, and fish and not have the farming? Well, that's pretty easy if you know your climates, right? Christos. He popped in. Alumni class of 2022. What's going on, buddy? Let's say hi to him. He might have said that a minute ago. I didn't see it. Oh well. Hey, Christos. That's your president right there. I can't remember. Student government president or student... I don't even remember the difference, but he's one of them. He's up there. He's important. For all of you juniors, you should know him. Get him on your friends list. I don't know what I'm talking about. So, here you go. It's because if you remember what I was saying, geography, it's cold up near the top, cold near the bottom, not a lot of farming, right? Climate, that all stuff is real, right? So you're not having, it's harder to farm the farther north or the farther south you go, because farther away from the equator you get, the colder it's going to be, right? So, let's move on. Moving on. So we get the Pueblo culture. Their biggest thing was irrigation networks that they did in the Southwest. And that was for water, because not a lot of water in the desert, just so you know. So you can see here, this is obviously later on because this is a photo, but it still is, these cool buildings that they used, right, to live out in the desert. I got the water, irrigation networks to water all their land. Now, the North American Indians, these are different. So this is a big difference that you kind of need to really sink in there. The North American, especially in the Northeast, they were individual tribes. They really didn't join together other than the Iroquois, right? They're a separate thing. And so that really made it easier when the Europeans landed, because divide and conquer, that whole thing, it works, right? If you don't have to attack a whole big group of people and you can do them individually, it makes it easier to conquer them, right? And so that was a negative for those people, okay? And what do we got on here? Don't worry about that one. Three sister farming, right? Maize, beans, squash. If you took AP World, you know about that one, right? You should. I know I was talking to Mr. Provenzano about you guys, because he was, warning me about all the awesomeness that you guys have. You guys thought I was going to say something negative. But in North America, the Cherokee, we're going to talk a lot about the Cherokee because they get done wrong. Choctaw, the Creek, those are the big ones. And then also the Sioux, which are the Plains Indians, which are going to be, they're going to be big. But just remember three sister farming, okay? Iroquois Confederacy. All right, I need a drink. Sorry, some water. All right. They were, like I put on here, they're pretty close to Aztecs and Incas. They're huge. They kind of grouped tribes together. And that's why they're called a confederacy. They were together. And they had that military alliance. They're the ones that put up the most fights with the Europeans invading, right? Okay. Now, you can see here, we're not going to go over all of these, obviously, but the areas you need to kind of put in your brain, right? Great Plains, Eastern Woodlands, right? Southwest. This is how we're going to really, the Great Plains, you're going to have to talk, you don't have to know this, especially the Sioux, the Cheyenne, the Crow, all of these. And you can see here, this is the Iroquois Confederation, so it's made up of all of these individual ones. But the Cherokee here, Northeast Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, this area here, big, huge swath of area they control, the Cherokee do, okay? And we'll get to the other ones a little bit later, okay? Now, the women tended crops. The women had a lot more power. They're a matriarchal society, more or less. Not all of them. It means that they were matrilineal. It means that, like, whatever the mom had, that got passed down, right? Rather than patrilineal, which is like dad to son, you know, it's mom, daughter, you know, that type of thing. So, and this is going to be a big problem for the Indians, is their view of the earth, right? They really, a lot of them didn't have terms for owning the land. They really, that wasn't, it's so weird for us to even try and talk about this and contextualize this and kind of, you know, explain it. But they did not have a word for owning the earth. They controlled the land, but they didn't own it, right? It was their territory, their hunting rights, things like that. And they would fight and defend those fiercely, but they didn't own it, right? And I know that kind of seems the same, but it's not for them, okay? But the first people to come, the first Europeans, were not Christopher Columbus. They were the Vikings, and they came through the north. They never like really explored down south, and you're going to see that on a map here in a second. But they were just here trying to find stuff. They were just like discovering, like, you know, exploring. They weren't setting up settlements. They weren't, you know, they weren't trying to make a life here. It was like very, you know, patchwork of small little villages and things like that they would abandon at winter time and go home. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't what the English and the Spanish are going to do, okay? But they did it in 1000 AD. So they did it 500 years before Columbus, right? So again, Columbus didn't discover it, but the Vikings didn't tell anybody. So they're not credited with it, right? They kept it to themselves. They didn't tell anybody. But this is what they would do. You can see here, Scandinavia, these areas, Oslo, very old areas. They would go from island to island, Iceland, Greenland, stick along the coast, and then finally into northern North America, right? Because this is on a globe. So, like, Florida's way down over here where it's not even on the map, right? So, like, this is Maine right here, okay? I know when you look on a map, you don't think about it this way, but this is how it is. So, they didn't do anything. Oh, I kind of messed up on that PowerPoint part. Oh, well. Then the Europeans start trading to the east, to India and China, because they want a lot of the things going on there. And I'm not going to go through this. A lot of you know it from AP World, and you don't really do it in ACE International, but AP World, you know all of this, right? So they were trying to trade with India and China, spices, fabrics, things like that. But the problem was this. Down here is some of the worst ocean in the world, right? Coming around the bottom. And it just took out people left and right. Okay? And if you guys, this is one of those terms where I think it might be getting too old. I don't hear people using it a lot. But the term posh, you know, that means like expensive, like, oh, that's so posh. You know, I don't know if you guys ever use that or heard people use it, but what it really means is during like the late 1800s, if you were traveling from England or any European country to India, all right, that's where they, especially English, you would travel on a boat all the way down around, right, and go to India, right? Steamships, they had stuff like that. But no AC, right? So you would want to be on the ocean side, both ways, right? And so those rooms were more expensive. So you would get stamped on your luggage, port out, starboard home. Posh. Pow. Put it right in there. And then that's where it became rich people, posh. That's where it came from. Useless fact. Never going to use that, unless you tell somebody else it's a useless fact. Tell your parents that. They'll know what posh means. But, yeah, there's my, useless fact for the day. Marco Polo went there, but, the whole game, he's blind. He wasn't actually blind. I don't know where that game came from when you play in the pool, Marco Polo, that whole thing. Hung out with the Mongolians, who were crazy people in the Mongolian Empire, which is, the largest empire the world's ever seen. They killed, more people than anything. But those were, I should have deleted that slide. You don't even need that one. But this one is important. So, Portuguese have some breakthroughs. The Caravel, and they really figure out how they can get back to Europe off the Azores, right? And that was a thing. And so the Caravel meant that you could sail against the wind. I don't know how you do that, but to me it doesn't make any sense. But I'm not a sailor, so I don't know. But those are big because that's in 1450, 40 years before Columbus does his thing, right? And so they start exploring even more through Africa and over to India. That's what a caravel looks like. How it sails against the wind, I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me, but they can. I was checking to see if anybody said anything. I have it on a separate screen over here. So Spain gets united. They expel the Muslims. Again, AP World. Muslims had, conquered Spain and they were controlling Spain. And they finally unite the clans. I'll explain that. I'm going to say that so many times. But they united them. And so now they got a bunch of money. And they want to compete with the Portuguese. And they're like, hey, let's keep going east. And it just so happens that they got this guy who's looking for somebody to sponsor him. And his name is Christopher Columbus. You can see there's a couple inventions they get throughout this time period. The Mariner's Compass, printing press. A lot of stuff that's starting to happen very, very quickly here. Okay. So the world known to Europe in 1492. This is how big they think the world is. This right here. That's in purple, right? The rest of it, and this is the other thing, sure you guys know this by now. The world is not flat, right? Okay. We're just going to start there. But they didn't believe, they knew the world wasn't flat basically in like 1,000, right? That was the latest, right? But what they did not know was the world was so big, right? They thought it was like this, but it really was like this, right? So they thought once you got to this area in the ocean, you were going to be over here, okay? Not this whole area here. They didn't think this was there. So they thought the world was smaller around than it was, the circumference, okay? But we get Christopher Columbus, 6 weeks, gets to some island off the Bahamas, trying to find a route to the Indies going east rather than going around Africa and those horrible seas. That's what he's trying to do. There he is. Yep. Not very good looking. Looks kind of mean. I'll explain why nobody's, smiling in these things, but we'll do that later. And so he landed, he believed from the very beginning that he landed in the Indies. That's why he called them Indians. He died never knowing he discovered a new world. Never knowing. He thought he had discovered a new route to Asia, but that wasn't the truth. He thought Cuba was Japan. It's a big island, right? But he enslaved the people no less. All around, not great guy, right? But he did, quote unquote, discover the New World, right? He discovered it to Western Europe. That's what he did. That's how he discovered it, right? So this is what he thought. He thought the distance between the Azores and Japan was 2,200 miles. Not so fast. 14,000 miles. Let's look at that again. 2,200 miles, 4,000 kilometers. Not too bad. I can do that. 23,000 kilometers, son. You are not doing that. Right? So that's the difference. Okay? See, like on this map, this part of North America looks so far from here. But when you put it on a curved map, it's actually really close. All right. Okay. Or projection, that's what it's called. So, the effects of this, right? The biggest one, Africa. The slaves are going to start coming out of Africa. 4 continents get affected. The Americas, Africa, and Europe. The Colombian Exchange. This is the big one. All right. You can see the stuff coming over to the New World and coming back. The big ones, cattle, horses, pigs, smallpox, are coming from Europe. All right. Then coming from Asia, sugar and rice. Right. Sugar is going to be the big crop in down in the Caribbean. Okay. But we bring over from North and South America. I say we, like I was, there. Maize, so corn, potatoes, tobacco, right? Tobacco is going to be big for the colonies, okay? So that's your Colombian Exchange, right? And the big things, cattle, horses, disease, are coming from Europe. The things going to Europe that are big are the potatoes, tobacco. Potatoes, because it allows very easy to grow. You think of Irish having potatoes, it's always the stupid stereotype, but they didn't have it until 1492. So, and that allows very easy population growth because it can feed a lot of people. Tobacco, that kills them, right? But they love it, and they're going to love it for a long, long time. So, and that's, basically on this one. I'll leave it there for a second, see if you guys can write some of these down. I'm going to check my phone here real quick. You guys can hear my wife in there cooking something. I posted something on my Instagram about this one. I don't know if you guys can see it on there. It's kind of funny. Class of 22, perceived power in school. It's kind of blurry, sorry. Not what they think they are, right? All right, let's go. Now, we talked about this. We got all these. Bow, bow, bow. The biggest thing. This fact right here, 90% of the Indians, Native Americans, some of them like to be called Indians, some of them like to be called Native Americans. We're going to switch it off. We're not, I'm trying to offend anybody on that, right? Some people like the Indians, some people like the Native Americans. It's all about intent too, And, they would, like this. One Indian who met European traders could go out and meet European traders, come back to his tribe that was a long way away, kill everybody in the tribe. Nobody ever met the Europeans. 90% of the people that were here, North and South America, wiped out because of disease, right? That was the big killer. They had better weapons. They had horses and stuff like that, but That was a big one. All right. Smallpox, horrendous picture. I know. I'm sorry, but you got to see what it is, right? This is what it is. Horrible. Horrible way to die. Then we get to the Treaty of Tordesillas. This is where they split the land. Okay, I'll come right back to it. Between, so you can see the Papal division, right? And it'll be right. Where is it at? I'll go back to it. There you go. It divided them between Portugal and Spain, right? Portugal, they didn't know what they were doing. Spain got the better of all of this, okay? And Spain got most of South America. That was a big one. But this is why Brazil speaks Portuguese, right? Instead of Spanish, because of the Treaty of Tordesillas, which is just very fun to say. Because even as a white person who's not very good at speaking Spanish, I can say it. Tordesillas. Tordesillas. I don't know. That's about as good as I can do. And this is what they came for. Spanish conquistadors. We're going to do this, finish it up, we'll be good, right? I know you're like, oh my God, how long have I been doing this? How long are we? I don't even know how long this is going for. 52 minutes. No, it's 1:15. I started right at 1:15. So we're at 40 minutes. Okay. That what they came for, God, gold, and glory. That's what they came for, right? Ferdinand Magellan, he's the one who went all the way around. He specifically didn't because he got killed, but his group, his boys did, right? Here's his trip. That's all you got to know. Nothing big here. Ponce de Leon, I put him in because he, explored Florida looking for gold, not looking for the Fountain of Youth. Got killed. Francisco Pizarro. This is the big one. Took out Peru. Their silver deposits were just huge. It had some, negative effects. Okay. And what else? What else we got here? Yeah, that's good. Now, the big one here is the Inca Meander system. I think I said that right. This one, okay, would allow the government to give Indians to certain colonists if they try to Christianize them. So, yeah, not very awesome. It was just slavery in another name. To give you these people, hey, you can have these people if you convert them. That is a very important thing. It was a big system that enslaved a lot of people and caused Native Americans to become in contact with Europeans, which killed them. That whole thing. All right. Then we got Cortez. He's the one who conquers the Aztecs, lands on the Yucatan Peninsula, burns his boat to the ground so his men can't go anywhere. And they're like, what? This guy's crazy. And he wants to take over the Aztecs because they have so much gold, huge empire. And as you can see, he gets somebody who understood Mayan. That was their native language. And it was very easy for him to talk to everybody. If you can hear somebody walking around, that's my dog, Spencer. Maybe I'll put him up at the end. You guys can see him. But you can see here, came over from Cuba, landed, conquered Tenochtitlan. Cortez landed at Veracruz. There we go. Very basic stuff here. This is not like, you're not going to have like a big thing of this. All right. Okay. Hopefully that came through. It said no data for a second. So I'll go back for a second. We have Montezuma, who was the Aztec chief. That's who he did. You're not going to really have to know all of this, right? So I'm just going to. We have Spain, yeah. Here's the city of Tenochtitlan. Eventually, he attacks Spanish. They fight back. And destroyed it. Smallpox ravaged them. That's where they got a lot of it from. If this is like buffering or something right now, I'm sorry. I'm going to leave it up here. The biggest thing with this, okay, and we'll get into more of it, is you need to know the Colombian Exchange, Hernan Cortez, Francisco Pizarro. What did they do? Why did so many people die? And they were killing people, but it wasn't like they were trying to slaughter as many as they did. Now, they didn't care for them, that's for sure. But it wasn't, like I said, it's not like the Holocaust, okay? So, I didn't want to do this for more than 45 minutes, so we're going to stop here. I'll do chapter 2, I don't know, tomorrow or something like that, and then we'll go from there. All right? So, look forward to seeing you guys on Tuesday. That's probably the first time that, we'll see each other. Obviously, it's the first day of school. So, other than that, we're good to go, man. If this is too fast, you guys can tell me, but I try to space it out good enough for you guys to write stuff. So, have a good day. Have a good rest of your weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday. Bye. Oh, my God.